There are moments in life when you feel the quiet urge to start again, not because everything has fallen apart, but because something inside you no longer fits the way it used to. You wake up one morning and sense that the weight you've been carrying doesn't belong to this version of you anymore. The habits, the expectations, the old ways of thinking, they feel heavier than they once did. And even though nothing dramatic has happened on the outside, something within you is asking for a new beginning. But here is the truth most people don't realize. New beginnings rarely announce themselves loudly. They don't always come with clarity or confidence. More often, they arrive as discomfort, as restlessness, as a subtle dissatisfaction you can't quite explain. You may feel tired of repeating the same emotional patterns, tired of reacting the same way, tired of promising yourself that things will change someday. And yet you hesitate because starting again feels risky, letting go feels uncertain, and the mind prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar peace. Most people believe a new beginning requires a perfect moment, a clean slate, a dramatic decision. They wait for the right time, the right circumstances, the right version of themselves. But Zen teaches something radically different. It teaches that a new beginning does not come from changing your life all at once. It comes from changing how you meet this moment. Because the only place renewal can ever happen is here, not in the future you imagine, and not in the past you regret. The mind often resists new beginnings because it fears losing control. Old patterns may hurt, but they are known. They feel predictable. Starting again means stepping into uncertainty, and uncertainty feels unsafe to a mind that has spent its entire existence trying to protect you. This is why even when we want change, we cling to what we know. We tell ourselves stories like "this is just who I am," or "it's too late now," or "this is how things have always been." These stories are not facts. They are habits of thought. In Buddhism, suffering is not caused by pain itself, but by attachment. Attachment to identities, attachment to outcomes, attachment to the idea that things must remain a certain way for us to be okay. When you resist a new beginning, it's often because you are attached to an old version of yourself, even if that version was unhappy. Letting go of who you were can feel like losing ground, even when it's the very thing holding you back. There is a Zen story of a monk who carried a heavy bag of stones on his back everywhere he went. Day after day, he walked with effort, bent under the weight. One day, another monk finally asked him why he carried it. The monk replied, "Because I picked it up years ago and now it's part of my journey." The other monk smiled and said, "You picked it up once. You choose to carry it every day." And in that moment, the monk understood something that changed his life. The past only continues if you keep lifting it into the present. A new beginning is not about erasing your past. It's about stopping the habit of carrying it forward. Most of what weighs you down today is not what's happening now, but what you keep remembering, replaying, and interpreting. Old mistakes, old failures, old words spoken to you, old versions of yourself you no longer are. Zen invites you to see that the present moment is always free of these things until you bring them into it. The mind says, "I can't begin again until I fix myself." Zen says, beginning again is what fixes the illusion that you were broken. There is a deep misunderstanding in the way people approach change. They believe they must become worthy of a new beginning. But worthiness is not something you earn. It is something you recognize when you stop fighting yourself. Many people fear that if they let go of the old, they will lose their identity. But what if the identity you are protecting is the very thing keeping you trapped? The roles you play, the labels you carry, the expectations you live under. Zen does not ask you to destroy these things. It asks you to see them clearly. And when you truly see them, they loosen their grip naturally. There is another teaching often shared in Zen monasteries. A student once asked a master, "How do I start a new life?" The master replied, "Finish the old one." The student was confused and asked, "How do I do that?" The master answered, "Stop dragging yesterday into today." That was all. No ritual, no long explanation, just awareness. You don't need permission to begin again. You don't need approval from others. You don't need the past to agree with your future. The moment you stop identifying with the voice that says this is how it's always been, you step into something new. And this stepping does not require force. It requires honesty. Honesty means noticing when something no longer serves you, not judging it, not condemning it, simply noticing. Maybe it's the way you speak to yourself. Maybe it's the way you stay silent when you want to speak. Maybe it's the way you keep returning to situations that drain you. Awareness is the first doorway. Without it, change becomes self-punishment. With it, change becomes natural. Zen teaches that every moment is complete, not perfect but complete. This means you don't need to wait for life to look different before you feel allowed to start again. A new beginning can happen in the middle of a mess, in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of confusion. In fact, those are often the most honest beginnings. The mind often wants certainty before it moves forward. Zen invites you to move forward with presence instead. Presence does not guarantee outcomes. It guarantees alignment. When you act from presence, you may not know exactly where you are going, but you know you are here, fully. And that is enough. There is a quiet strength that emerges when you stop trying to reinvent yourself and start allowing yourself. Allowing does not mean giving up. It means stopping the internal war. The more you fight who you are, the harder it becomes to change. The moment you stop fighting, movement begins. A new beginning does not require grand gestures. It begins with small inner shifts. The way you pause before reacting, the way you breathe before responding, the way you choose not to repeat an old story about yourself. These moments may seem insignificant, but they are the true turning points, because they interrupt the pattern. And once a pattern is interrupted, something new has space to emerge. Most people think they are afraid of change, but what they are really afraid of is loss. Loss of familiarity. Loss of control. Loss of identity. Zen teaches that what you truly lose in a new beginning is illusion. The illusion that you are fixed. The illusion that the past defines you. The illusion that you must remain the same to be safe. When you sit quietly and observe your thoughts, you begin to see how often the mind tries to protect an outdated version of you. It brings up reasons to stay the same. It warns you of imagined dangers. It replays old memories as proof that change won't work. Zen does not argue with the mind, it simply watches. And in watching, you discover that thoughts are not commands, they are movements. They arise, they pass, and you are not required to obey them. A new beginning happens the moment you stop believing every thought that tells you why you can't begin. It happens when you recognize that the voice of fear is not wisdom, it is habit, and habits can change. There is a deep peace that comes when you realize you don't have to become someone else to start again. You only have to stop abandoning yourself. Most suffering comes from self-abandonment, ignoring your own needs, silencing your own truth, staying where you no longer belong. A new beginning is an act of self-respect. Zen does not romanticize fresh starts. It does not promise instant transformation. It promises something more reliable, a way of meeting life that does not depend on perfection, a way of beginning again and again without shame. Because every time you notice and return, you are practicing the deepest form of renewal. And as you begin to understand this, something subtle shifts inside you. The idea of a new beginning stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like permission. Permission to let go. Permission to soften. Permission to step forward without having everything figured out. Permission to be unfinished. This is where new beginnings truly start. Not in the future, not after everything is resolved, but here, in the quiet recognition that you don't need to carry what no longer belongs to you. And when you set it down, even gently, even imperfectly, you realize something important. You were never stuck. You were only holding on. As you continue to move through this idea of a new beginning, something subtle begins to reveal itself. You start to notice that what you once thought was resistance to change was often a quiet exhaustion. Not the kind that comes from doing too much, but the kind that comes from holding yourself together in ways that no longer feel true. When the inner tension finally becomes noticeable, it isn't a failure. It is awareness knocking. And awareness is always the first sign that a new beginning is already underway. Many people believe that to begin again, they must first understand everything that went wrong. They revisit old decisions, analyze past relationships, replay conversations, and search for the moment where things should have gone differently. But Zen teaches that understanding the past is less important than understanding how you are relating to it now. You don't suffer because of what happened. You suffer because you are still holding it in the present. A new beginning begins not when the past is explained, but when it is released. The mind resists this release because it believes that letting go means forgetting, forgiving too easily, or becoming careless. But letting go is not erasing memory. It is changing relationship. When you stop carrying the past as a weight, it becomes a teacher instead of a burden. It informs you without defining you. And this shift does not require force. It requires clarity. There is a Zen story of a woman who came to a monk seeking guidance. She said she wanted a new life, but felt trapped by everything she had done before. The monk handed her a teacup and began pouring tea. He kept pouring even as the cup filled and overflowed. Startled, she cried out, telling him to stop. The monk calmly said, "Your mind is like this cup, full of old ideas, old pain, old identity. If you want something new, you must first make space." This teaching is not about erasing the cup. It is about emptying it enough to receive. You cannot pour a new beginning into a mind that is already overflowing with fear, regret, and expectation. This is why Zen emphasizes simplicity. Not because life should be minimal, but because clarity requires space. When you stop crowding your mind with what might happen or what should have happened, the present moment opens. And in that openness, something fresh can emerge. Often, the desire for a new beginning comes with urgency, a feeling that time is running out, that you are behind, that others have moved ahead. Zen asks you to question this urgency. Who is rushing, and where are they going? When you look closely, you often discover that urgency is created by comparison, by measuring your life against someone else's timeline. But life is not a race. It unfolds according to causes and conditions unique to you. A new beginning does not mean starting from zero. You are not empty-handed. You bring with you everything you have learned, everything you have survived, everything you have outgrown. Zen does not ask you to discard wisdom. It asks you to release attachment. Wisdom stays. Attachment binds. The difference is subtle but life-changing. As the idea of beginning again deepens, you may notice moments of fear. Fear that you will repeat the same mistakes. Fear that you will fail again. Fear that hope will only lead to disappointment. Zen does not dismiss these fears. It invites you to meet them without becoming them. Fear is a sensation, a tightening, a story. It feels convincing, but it is not a prophecy. When fear arises, Zen practice is simple. Return to the body, feel your breath, notice your feet on the ground. In doing so, you remind yourself that you are here, alive, capable of responding. Fear thrives in imagined futures. Presence dissolves it. There is a teaching that says, you don't step into the same river twice. Even if it looks the same, the water has moved on. You have moved on too. A new beginning does not require a different world. It requires recognizing that you are already different, even now. Most people wait for confidence before they begin. Zen teaches the opposite. Begin and confidence follows. Confidence is not something you collect before action. It grows through experience, through showing up imperfectly, through discovering that you can meet what arises. As the days move forward, you may find yourself tempted to fall back into familiar roles. The one who stays quiet, the one who overgives, the one who doubts, the one who carries everything alone. Zen invites you to pause in those moments and ask, is this who I am, or is this who I have been? That single question creates space. And in space, choice appears. A new beginning is not about becoming someone else. It is about allowing parts of you that were buried under fear or habit to breathe again. The part that is curious, the part that is honest, the part that is willing to rest. These parts have always been there. They were simply waiting for permission. Zen also teaches patience with transformation. Just as seasons do not change overnight, neither does the inner landscape. You may feel inspired one day and uncertain the next. This does not mean you are moving backward. It means you are human. A new beginning is not linear. It unfolds in spirals. You revisit old themes with new awareness. Each time, they have less power over you. There is another Zen story about a man who asked how long it would take to change his life. The teacher asked him how hard he was willing to try. The man said, "Very hard." The teacher replied, "Then it will take a long time." Confused, the man asked why. The teacher said, "Because effort rooted in force creates resistance. Effort rooted in awareness creates change." New beginnings are not built on pressure. They are sustained by presence. As you learn to move with awareness, you begin to notice opportunities you once overlooked. Not dramatic opportunities, but quiet ones. The chance to respond differently. The chance to rest instead of push. The chance to speak honestly instead of pleasing. These moments are the real gateways to renewal. The mind often wants proof before it trusts a new path. Zen offers none. It asks for direct experience. Try meeting one moment without the old story. Try listening without preparing a defense. Try resting without guilt. Each time you do, You weaken the hold of the past and strengthen your connection to the present. A new beginning does not require cutting ties with everything that came before. It requires discernment, knowing what to carry forward and what to lay down. You don't have to abandon your life to change it. You only have to stop repeating what no longer aligns. As this understanding settles, you may feel a quiet grief for time lost, for versions of yourself that struggled, for moments that passed without awareness. Zen welcomes this grief. It is a sign of honesty, but it also reminds you that regret belongs to the past and compassion belongs to now. You cannot change what happened, but you can change how gently you hold it. The deeper you go into this practice, the clearer it becomes that a new beginning is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. When you stop resisting the present, it opens. When it opens, life moves. And in this movement, you begin to trust yourself again. Not the image of yourself you tried to maintain, but the living, breathing presence that adapts, learns, and responds. This trust is quiet. It does not announce itself, but it changes everything. You realize that you don't need to rush into the future to escape the past. You only need to stop living in yesterday. When you stay with what is here fully, something remarkable happens. The past loosens. The future softens. And the present becomes spacious enough to hold something new. This is the heart of a true new beginning. Not a dramatic reinvention, but a steady return. A return to yourself. A return to clarity. A return to a life that is no longer driven by habit, but guided by awareness. And as this awareness deepens, you may sense that the beginning you were searching for was never outside you. It was waiting quietly for the moment you stopped running and started listening. As awareness continues to deepen, something almost paradoxical begins to happen. The more you stop chasing a new beginning, the more it seems to meet you where you are. Not as a sudden transformation, but as a gentle shift in how you inhabit each moment. You realize that renewal does not arrive with noise or announcement. It arrives quietly, often disguised as ordinary life. Zen teaches that the most profound changes are subtle. They do not demand attention. They simply alter the way you see. And when perception changes, experience follows. What once felt heavy may still be present, but it no longer defines the entire landscape of your inner world. Space appears around it, and in that space you can breathe. Many people assume that a new beginning must be marked by external change. A new place, a new role, a new relationship, a new year. But Zen gently dismantles this belief. It shows you that external changes are reflections, not causes. You can move across the world and carry the same patterns with you. Or you can sit in the same room and discover an entirely new way of being. This understanding can feel unsettling at first. If a new beginning does not depend on circumstances, then responsibility shifts inward, not as blame, but as empowerment. You begin to see that no moment is locked, no habit is permanent, no identity is fixed. Everything is in motion, including you. As you live with this awareness, moments that once felt insignificant start to glow with meaning. Washing your hands becomes an opportunity to release what you no longer need. Walking becomes a practice of arriving. Listening becomes a form of generosity. These are not metaphors in Zen. They are lived experiences. Life does not wait for you to be ready. It meets you where you are again and again. There is a Zen story of an old gardener who was asked how he stayed so peaceful despite his simple life. He replied that every morning he watered the plants as if it were the first time, not because he forgot yesterday, but because today had never happened before. This is the essence of beginner's mind. To meet each moment without the weight of assumption. Beginner's mind is not ignorance, it is openness. It is the willingness to see without immediately categorizing, judging, or predicting. When you bring beginner's mind into your life, you stop assuming that you know how things will turn out, and in doing so, you free yourself from the prison of expectation. Expectation is often the hidden barrier to new beginnings. When you expect a certain outcome, you narrow your awareness. You overlook possibilities that do not fit the story you are telling yourself. Zen invites you to release this grip, not to become passive, but to become receptive. Receptivity is strength. It allows you to respond rather than react, to listen before speaking, to pause before deciding. In this pause, something essential reveals itself. You begin to notice that life is constantly offering you chances to begin again, not just once a year, but moment by moment. Every breath is a reset. Every exhale is a letting go. Every inhale is a quiet acceptance of what is needed now. When you truly feel this, the idea of a new beginning stops feeling distant. It becomes immediate, accessible, alive. As the script of your life softens, you may notice a shift in how you relate to others. Old resentments lose their sharp edges, not because others have changed, but because you are no longer feeding the story that kept the resentment alive. You see people as they are, conditioned and imperfect, just like you. Compassion grows naturally in this seeing. Compassion is not something you force yourself to feel. It arises when separation dissolves, when you realize that everyone is navigating uncertainty, loss, and hope in their own way. This realization does not make you naive. It makes you kind. And kindness is fertile ground for renewal. With compassion comes forgiveness, but not the dramatic kind, the quiet kind. The kind that happens when you stop rehearsing old pain, when you choose peace over being right, when you allow yourself to move forward without carrying the full weight of yesterday. Forgiveness in Zen is not about excusing behavior. It is about freeing your own heart. A heart burdened by anger cannot fully receive a new beginning. When you let go, you are not giving something away. You are reclaiming your energy. As this energy returns, you may feel a renewed sense of curiosity. Curiosity about who you are becoming. Curiosity about what life might reveal next. This curiosity is gentle, not demanding. It does not insist on answers. It enjoys the unfolding. Zen encourages you to trust this unfolding. To understand that clarity often comes after action, not before. You do not need a complete map to take the next step. You only need enough awareness to see what is directly in front of you. This is where many people hesitate. They want certainty before they begin, but certainty is a myth created by the mind to feel safe. Life has never been certain, and yet here you are, breathing, learning, adapting. You have already navigated countless beginnings without realizing it. Every time you chose to continue despite fear, that was a beginning. Every time you softened instead of hardened, that was a beginning. Every time you stayed present in difficulty, that was a beginning. You are far more experienced in starting anew than you think. Zen asks you to honor this quiet resilience, not with pride but with respect. You have carried yourself through storms you once thought would break you. And now, standing where you are not empty. You are seasoned. And seasoning is not something you remove. It is something that deepens flavor. As the year turns or as any cycle completes, Zen does not ask you to make promises. It asks you to pay attention. Attention is the most sacred commitment you can make. When you attend fully to your life, it responds. Attention transforms routine into ritual. It transforms waiting into presence. It transforms endings into doorways. When you stop rushing toward the future, you begin to notice how much of it arrives on its own. There may still be days when the old patterns return, days when doubt feels familiar, days when motivation fades. Zen does not see these as failures. It sees them as reminders, invitations to begin again, gently, without self-judgment. Each time you notice you have drifted, that noticing itself is awakening. You do not need to criticize yourself for drifting. Drifting is human. Returning is practice. Over time, this returning becomes more natural, less dramatic. You stop making a big story out of every setback. You stop demanding constant progress. You allow yourself to be in process, and in that allowance, growth happens organically. The deepest new beginning is not about what you do differently. It is about how you relate to what you do. When effort is infused with presence, it stops feeling heavy. When rest is embraced without guilt, it becomes nourishing. When silence is welcomed, it becomes wise. Zen ultimately points you back to simplicity, not as an aesthetic, but as a way of being. To live simply is to stop adding unnecessary layers of fear, expectation, and self-judgment. It is to meet life directly. In this directness, you realize that the moment you have been waiting for is already here. It has always been here, waiting patiently while you searched elsewhere. A new beginning is not ahead of you. It is under your feet. In the step you are taking now, in the breath you are breathing now, in the choice to be present now. And so, as this reflection comes to rest, nothing needs to be concluded. Nothing needs to be resolved. You are not being asked to become someone new. You are being invited to arrive as you are. From this place, every moment is fresh. Every moment is possible. Every moment is a beginning. And when tomorrow comes, you will meet it not as someone chasing change, but as someone grounded in awareness. Ready not because you know what will happen, but because you trust yourself to respond. This is the Zen way of beginning again. Quiet, steady, alive, and it begins always here.